about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So some of you may be aware that there's going to be some mask mandates brought back. Now, I know some of you are listening going, oh, okay, is this an old rerun? No, it's October of 2025. Yeah, mask mandates may be coming back. I think Sonoma County Health Department told Newsweek in California that the timing of this order was done in conjunction with other Bay Area counties in anticipation of the winter surge in COVID and flu, which is typically nationally, if not globally. So the mandate is going to go into effect November 1 in Sonoma County, inside certain healthcare facilities, so not restaurants or schools yet, but just due to risk of COVID, flu, and other respiratory viral-related illnesses. Now, I got an email. This was a few months back, I think during the summer, where one of my listeners, saw somebody in a mask when they were at the movies and saw somebody else in a mask when they were at Disneyland or whatever, and asked, what are they sick with? If somebody is currently wearing a mask, is their doctor telling them to wear a mask? Or are they just worried they're going to get sick, or do they have something? And they think that somebody wearing a mask might actually be sick and contagious, so they want to avoid that person with the mask. And I admitted this to you guys. When I wanted to get out of somebody sitting next to me on an airplane, this was way before COVID, I would wear a mask, and I would sit there and smile, and they just kind of walked away. They're like, well, I don't want to sit next to her. Now, why would somebody not want to sit next to me? Right, wearing a mask? Well, because at the time before COVID, if you saw somebody wearing a mask, you assumed they had tuberculosis, or they had pneumonia, or they had something that they could spread to you, and they were ill. Mask was a sign of illness. A ski mask was a sign you were going skiing or you were about to rob a bank. And so when you looked within a second of looking at somebody wearing a mask, like, if that person is sick, or that person could be so immunocompromised that I could give them something without realizing. So you instinctively would stay away from that person. Then all of a sudden, COVID came. There were these mask mandates, and the thinking of, okay, well, wait a second, I could still get something, because they're in a mask, they're obviously sick. I'm sitting next to them on a plane. That mask is not a super Star Trek shield. It's gonna, it's not gonna deflect everything, as we saw with the vice presidential debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris. It didn't. The plexiglass did not deflect a fly. That decided to sit on Mike Pence's head for a good part of the debate. So we all of a sudden we change that thinking, going, oh no, it's fine. If you wear a mask and you're sitting next to somebody on a plane, then you're good, but you have to wear the mask. Really? No, you're not good. This is why COVID still spread. And so as a physician, I did wear masks between patients, especially during flu season, because my fear was, even if I'm not sick, I could breathe it in and breathe it on you. But the caveat was I changed out the mask. I didn't just keep the same mask for months, because once you wear a mask and you're breathing with the expiration and the moisture in the expiration, once it gets wet, it's not good. You got to throw it out. So I would go through boxes of masks. And so when I'm asked, what should we be doing, cough, cold, and flu season, I think it provides a barrier. The very first thing Fauci said before he went down the path, which I don't understand why he did, but the very first thing he said is, it provides a barrier. It's not a good enough barrier. It's not going to deflect something like COVID to the degree it needs to, but it's a barrier. And I like having barriers. I think they actually prove really well with in-laws. Right? Barriers aren't too bad in general. I don't mind a good barrier. And so if you feel like you're going to get sick, If you feel like it might minimize your chance by 5 or 10%, go for it. But it's got to be your choice. Healthcare facilities are easier to mandate things with because you have individuals who are very vulnerable. So if I'm told, if I walk into a hospital to wear a mask, I'm totally fine with that. But it needs to be a fresh mask. Don't just have somebody pull something out of their pocket or out of their glove box. You need to make sure that what they're wearing is appropriate. If not, it does nobody any good. And so, mask mandates are going to probably come back and forth. I think certain facilities and certain instances, but if somebody has asthma, if somebody has autism, if somebody's on a plane and they're not breathing well, I was amazed at how I was struggling breathing with a mask because somehow the partial pressure of oxygen did not sit right with my lungs. I wasn't currently sick, but COVID did a number on my lungs where the only way I was able to remove my mask was if I looked like I was drinking. And the flight attendants kept watching me. So I would, when they walked by, I would cover up and then I would open it to breathe and look like I was drinking. And I for those people with respiratory issues, I feel for them. That was not easy. And I wasn't even sick. All I was on a plane. And the partial pressure of oxygen drops, so sometimes you feel winded. So, somebody now wearing a mask, what do they have? I can't tell you. I can't say if they have liver disease, if they're immunocompromised. Were they a kidney transplant patient? Hard to tell. If they're wearing a mask, it doesn't necessarily mean they have tuberculosis and they can make you sick. It could be that they're just trying to protect themselves. But yeah, as a physician, I try not to breathe or touch or infect them with anything. And maybe that's their way of saying, look, I want you to leave me the hell alone. Maybe they want their identity obscured. Notice how cities now had to say, okay, stop it with the ski masks for COVID in July when you walk into a jewelry store. No masks. But I really do believe that N95 respirators, assuming we aren't breathing in the chemicals, which one study alluded to, where you need to air it out, although the more you air it out, now you make it less sterile, but N95 masks do provide better protection than these surgical masks. But people are wearing them for a variety of reasons. And you know what? If it's their choice, that's fine. I don't like mandates. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's fantasy football pocket guides for beginners. Don't be left out.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So we got some breaking news. Multiple people are dead after a massive explosion erupted at a Tennessee bomb factory. We're being told by Daily Mail that the blast went off at the Accurate Energetic Systems plant. It's located 60 miles southwest of Nashville near the town of Bucksnort. This happened at about 7:50 a.m. local time. We're being told at least 19 people are feared dead. They are currently unaccounted for, according to Humphreys County Emergency Management Director. The initial blast was so big that locals reported hearing it miles, I think 21 miles away. The extent of the damage is unclear at this time. Unfortunately, the fire consumed the entire building. Footage is showing burning debris, a lot of smoke. You see several cars and buildings damaged in the blast. And emergency crews are right now working tirelessly to get to the victims. They're urging the public to stay away. They also are worried that there could be some secondary explosions. If this is a bomb factory and some bombs go off and now you have heat, and then other things can obviously ignite. So we're looking at horrific photos from this. According to Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davis, they say first responders have rushed to aid those impacted by the explosion. Right now, they say we're prioritizing people that are involved, their families, and trying to get very compassionate towards them. The Hickman County Sheriff's Office has asked locals to avoid the area because I'm sure everybody wants to take a picture and see, and people want to help their family members if their family members are there. Emergency responders were not yet able to go into the plant because there were continued explosions. The Tennessee Department of Transportation has also shut down State Route 230 just north of the I-40 as first responders are working on the scene, and ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, are also dispatched to the plant. Officials expect the investigation is going to take several days. So pray. I hope they find the victims. I hope the victims are okay. Unfortunately, they are fearing that we have at least 19 dead. The bomb miles away. Bionica Holt lives 15 miles from the factory. And the whole house shook. I mean, she felt it that far away. And not sure what happened. And hopefully we'll get some clarity soon. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So Melania Trump made a rare press conference. And this was pretty impressive. So apparently she has been working to get Ukrainian kids home and has had an open line of communication with Putin. And, this is something that I think is huge. And she says 8 Ukrainian children have now been reunited with their families after ongoing talks with Putin. She said that in August, she wrote him, Russian leader, and had her husband hand-deliver the letter when he held a summit with the Russian president in Alaska. So he said, this is from my wife. Putin was probably like, ooh la la. But apparently he read it, and it hit home. I mean, only 8 kids, but it's better than nothing. Unfortunately, his invasion of Ukraine has resulted in so much death and destruction, as well as Ukrainian children ripped from their families, taken to Russia so they could be raised as Russian. This is 2025, and we're seeing tactics that are centuries old, taking kids away and raising them so they could be in your army later. It blows my mind. Well, the First Lady spoke at the White House today while Donald Trump is at, I believe, Walter Reed, getting his semi-annual physical, and then he's going to be off to the Middle East to be there for the hostages coming home and to make sure that the peace deal is implemented to schedule. And so she said that after Putin responded to her letter, they established an open channel of communication regarding the welfare of those children. She says, we have agreed to cooperate with each other for the benefit of all people involved in this war. Both sides have participated in several back-channel meetings and calls over the past 3 months, and one of her representatives has been working directly with Putin's team to ensure the safe reunification of children with their families. Now, this is huge and kind of unprecedented. And we thought that the first lady is usually sidelined, given things to do and significant. But this is huge, and for her to be able to work with somebody who is known for their cruelty, known for their shenanigans and the games they play, and has been ticking off her husband, President Trump. For her to be able to make any headway is huge. The Associated Press, we're being told by Yahoo News, has documented the grabbing of Ukrainian children in 2022. The International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Putin for war crimes, accusing him of personal responsibility for the abductions of children from Ukraine. Did anything get done with that? It's been 3.5 years, the war. That started, I believe, February 24th of 2022. Melania Trump said 8 children have been reunited with their families. Now, we're assuming these are the Ukrainian children that were abducted. What I think this exemplifies, what we're seeing with the Trumps and is things can get done. We do this in life where we come up with a goal. Like I want to lose 60 pounds or 50 pounds or 40 pounds, or I want to, get buff, or I want to get a 6-pack, or I want to, and we come up with these goals, which is good. I think goal setting is good. But then when we fail to meet them, we quit. We give up. I mean, peace in the Middle East can happen. I don't think the 2-state solution necessarily is going to work because, unfortunately, there's terrorists who want mayhem, and then they take over Gazans and Palestinians, rule them, and then bring them into a state of despair. There's not to mention Israel only has X amount of land. I mean, there's so many other countries out there that could provide homes, for a Palestinian homeland. But Israel, as small as it is, I think it's smaller than the size of Rhode Island, is being asked to give up more land. It's a little one-sided there. I got to tell you, I was just there and people asked, how big is it? It's not big at all. I mean, I was able to drive to the northern border, right, near Syria and Lebanon and to the border of Jordan very easily in a couple hours. Now, it's about 3-4 hours to Eilat, the farthest most point. And I didn't do that because I just didn't want to be in the car with my mom for 4 hours. Love my mom, but it was already hard enough. I was already driving all day with her all over the place. But, Gaza is, 45 minutes away from Tel Aviv. It's a really small country. Not a lot of room. Saudi Arabia, huge. Egypt, huge. Jordan, huge. Syria, huge. Lebanon, huge. Israel, tiny. Boy, are they big. In terms of being able to protect themselves and protect Americans and protect people in their country. October 7th should have never happened. But when you look at the long, the 6-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, all the times people wanted to annihilate Israel, they've been able to still stand. It's God. It's God's help. Now, people ask me, do I think God, intervened with Trump, making him president? I think God definitely intervened on the day he was almost assassinated. I mean, if he hadn't had the immigration poster and turned at that moment, which means immigration, and Biden actually saved his life. The mess with the border that Biden made actually ends up saving Trump's life. I do think. I do think God's involved. When you go to Israel and you see all the holy sites, we went through Nazareth, we went to the Sea of Galilee, Tiberias. I mean, I've been there before. Masada, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Jaffa. Just seeing how Jaffa is like one of the oldest ports still open. And it's amazing that it has still withstood everything. The Romans, everything. Caesarea is fascinating. It was a Roman strongholds. There was within Israel. And when you go there, there's still so much there to see that still remains. Definitely see Israel. I felt safer there than I would in Chicago. Now, but yes, I do think God's involved. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regenerations. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
All right, we are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this next question is really hard for me to answer, but I'm going to do it because that's what this show is about. So one of my listeners, again, wants to be anonymous, is asking me to comment on the younger generation of doctors and their abilities in the COVID era and their medical abilities, because apparently our listener is hearing horror stories of younger physicians not knowing how to do things, being less, shall we say, astute as the older colleagues. And basically he wants me to comment, am I seeing younger doctors and younger students flail compared to who I trained with and doctors from before? That's not easy to answer. I'm in touch with a lot of students and I work with a lot of students, and I got to tell you, man, we have the most amazing minds. To get to medical school, it's not easy. However, yes, there have been some changes and there have been some trends. Now, that does not equate or translate to all new doctors and new students. Like I said, there are some amazing, amazing people that got through. However, there's been some things that I've been hearing from medical schools and from professors and from doctors who work with medical students, and they're very frustrated. They're very concerned. Now, there's one thing I always have to tell doctors is, when I was in medicine, there was less to know than there is now. I was in medical school in the 90s. In fact, I remember being an undergrad, learning about hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and then a non-A, non-B hepatitis. Well, we end up now calling that hepatitis C, but I mean, that was before they even called it hepatitis C. It was non-A, non-B. So when a doctor and an older doctor compares, and this isn't the first time. Another one of my listeners had said that her doctor says don't trust anybody, who graduated past 2010. And I don't agree with that entirely, because what we had to learn and how we learned is different than what they're learning. And they have so much, I look at what they're studying for biochem, what their mind was we had less material to learn and consume. I also thought the boards were fairly easy. Maybe it's because I took tests, and maybe it's because I did really well on the SAT, so I was more of a test taker. But I think the boards were easier then than they are now. There's also a lot of competition because there's so many students. Maybe the boards are harder. I don't know, but there have been some changes in terms of kids getting into school with lower GPAs, lower test scores. There's been a lot of debate on DEI and debate on well, we need to look more diverse and well-rounded and the thing with that is you can't really get through medical school without having the tools and having the ability. And so I have not witnessed somebody who got in for a non-academic reason that didn't do well. They still have to, there's so much criteria to get into school. And those that do fail, if they don't fail, let's say their first class, they fail the boards or they fail getting into residency. So there's so many checks and balances throughout the training that for those patients that are worried that somebody got accepted to medical school who didn't have the skills, for them to pass so many benchmarks before they get to you, it's rare. So most likely the person you are seeing is competent, pass their boards. You can't pass the boards, and you can't, schools might be able to go, okay, let's remediate you. Let's really work with you. Oh, you almost got that answer right. I'll just give it to you. Schools might, be able to play around a little bit like that. But when you have the national set of boards and you sit for those, it's now pass fail. There's no score, but it's pass fail. And now, did they lower the threshold? I don't know. But they get in trouble if they pass people that aren't competent. There has to be a level of competency. So I wouldn't panic about that. But we are seeing students struggle because they're learning on computers. They aren't required to go to class. They aren't trained, with the, type of, I don't ever want, mine was, very abusive, and it was, the people throwing things, doctors hitting me and stabbing me with tools, the surgical tools. It was rough. And no medical school student should ever go through that. The scrubs with Kelso and Dr. Cox making your life miserable. No, we don't allow that to happen because it doesn't help learning. On the other end, though, I really had to bust a move in the 90s, making sure I knew how to operate a vent. I knew how to put in an IV. I knew how to put in catheters. I knew how to perform the surgery. I knew how to do an H&P, come up with the right differential. There was no room for error. There was no remediation. If you didn't do something right, you killed somebody. And what I'm seeing with students is many of them are not doing the procedures that we did. You could not be a medical student without having put in a Swan-Ganz catheter or having put in a femoral line. This is something we all had to do. And I'm hearing from students that, no, they didn't even do pap smears as medical students until they were in residency. So is it that the culture changed where patients are like, I really don't want a student doing my pap smear? Because that's also changed. So we had community clinics, and patients who didn't have insurance would get free health care, and they would get a medical student's opinion, a resident's opinion, and an attending's position. So they and many of them liked the care they were getting. It was free, and boy, we didn't miss anything. Nothing was half-assed. But on the other end, that's where I saw my first cervical cancer. Patient comes in, I do the pap smear on them, and you have a lot of individuals that, no, they really don't want a medical student, up in their business, doing their pap smear, and I did a good job. I didn't, in fact, I diagnosed it. She was a woman who had never had a pap smear because she didn't believe in them. And she said her husband didn't want to sleep with her anymore because she has a bad odor and she can't address the odor. And when I took a look, she had a necrotic cervix. It was dying flesh, her cervix, which is the bottom of her uterus. And it was so bad I almost fainted. I've smelled, autopsies and rotting, but this was fresh rotting flesh. It Yeah, it was rough. But I am so grateful for her allowing me to, because once you see that, now when somebody says I have an odor that doesn't go away, I'm like, when was your last pap smear? And it might not be bacterial vaginosis. This could be something serious too. So, your doctor that you're about to see, your nurse practitioner, your PA, they all have to be boarded by or licensed through the medical board. And you could look them up and you could see if they've had cases, if they've had sanctions, and you are allowed to do your research with the medical provider you have. I understand many of us don't have choices anymore since Obamacare. And how to tell a good doctor from a bad one or a good medical provider from a bad one? Well, somebody who listens. Somebody who tries to spend time. Somebody that just doesn't throw an antibiotic at it and say, see you in 3 months. And you'll be able to tell if somebody's a good provider or not. And, if you feel that you have something that you don't want anybody to make a mistake on, you've been having chest pain, but they're calling it anxiety, and you're like, well, how do I know it still isn't the heart, even with anxiety? Then get to a cardiologist. You do have choices. You might have to pay cash, but, your health comes first. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So a grumpy doctor that listens to the show, and he's grumpy. It's okay. He's allowed to be grumpy. It's kind of a very stressful time for a lot of us. But he is grumpy at RFK Jr. and blaming RFK Jr. for the lower vaccination rates of kids. And he wants me to be more vocal about what's happening in terms of vaccines and RFK's, make America's children healthy again. And my answer to, what the doctor is concerned about, and I understand a lot of people are concerned about herd immunity. Herd immunity is where, if the bigger, stronger people in the herd either have immunity by vaccine artificial immunity or natural immunity, then the little babies in the herd that they surround have protection because the big herd animals deflect things coming to it. That's kind of the herd immunity. So when you have individuals that can't be vaccinated or have side effects to vaccines, if a disease such as measles or polio or whatever is eradicated, and everybody's immune to it, it has much harder chance to get to the vulnerable people. That's where herd immunity comes from. But my answer to the physician is I understand his concern, but the drop in vaccination rates happened way before RFK Jr. and the Trump administration. I mean, families have been concerned. One mom said, my child's getting 25 shots before they're 1 year old. Now, is that true? Well, these are just to review what these vaccines are. And mind you, I'm pro-vaccine. I love that we have vaccines. We need vaccines. But parents are a little freaked out about the numbers. You got the RSV vaccine. If mom doesn't get the RSV vaccine, they want to give the baby a dose for a respiratory syncytial virus. Hepatitis B. They get their first dose at birth, second dose at 2 months, third dose at about 6 months to 15 months. So there's 4 doses. Rotavirus. First dose 2 months, second dose 4 months. They might get another. DTaP. Your diphtheria, tetanus, and acellular pertussis. First dose at 2 months, then 4 months, and 6 months, and then a year. So there's another 4. Year to 15 months, 12 months to 15 months. Many doctors would give the 12-month shots because we see them at the year mark. But then sometimes we split them up between the 12-month and the 15-month. The Haemophilus influenza, which could cause meningitis, could cause ear infections, sepsis. The Hib vaccine, 2 months, 4 months, and then either 6 months, a year. The pneumococcal vaccine for pneumonia, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year. Inactivated polio. We used to do the oral polio. We don't do anymore. Once a grandfather got polio after changing the baby's diaper, so we do the inactivated, so it's a killed version. Again, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. The MMR, given first dose at a year. Varicella, chickenpox, given first dose at a year. Hepatitis A, first dose at a year. And then if you add on top of that, so that's about 23 shots. If you add COVID or flu, now you're up to 25. When they're 18 months old to 18 years, they some might get their third dose of hepatitis B if they haven't already gotten it. They might get their dose of RSV if they hadn't gotten it yet. They will get a booster for their DTaP. They might get a booster for their polio. Of course, their flu shots, MMR. The second dose is at 4 years old, 4 to 6 years old. The varicella chickenpox second dose, 4 to 6 years old. The second dose of your hepatitis A, you might get. And then, of course, when they're teenagers, they'll start getting the HPV, the human papilloma viruses, and then the meningococcal viruses. Not the baby, the bacteria that cause it in infants and young children, but now they need the meningococcal for the older individuals. And so it's amazing how we have this now, and we have prevented many childhood deaths due to our vaccination program. But parents are looking at this as, it's a lot. It's a lot of shots. And if each shot could carry a small, very small, minimal risk of neurological issues or Guillain-Barré, where the immune system decides to attack the child's spinal cord, or an allergy. Now you have 23 to 25 opportunities where that could happen. That's why I'm not a fan of necessarily splitting up the MMR. I'm mixed on that, actually, because the MMR vaccine, now you're adding another 3. Now we're up to 28 shots. Well, no, or 20. If we're dividing it into 3, then that's 2 more additional shots. So then you know what? That's actually more, because now at 2 months, 4 months, no, at a year and 4 months. Anyway, now you're almost up at the 30 shot mark, and that's a lot. Although I do agree that we should have individualized measles, mumps, and rubella in case we do need to booster. Knowing that some of the measles outbreak happened in vaccinated individuals, is it because they didn't have enough immunity with the measles? Do they need all 3 again? Or can they just get boosted with the measles? So I don't think it's wrong to to have individual shots. It's just, I don't think a parent is going to tolerate anymore. And most parents are pretty overwhelmed. And unfortunately, some of that overwhelmingness is translated into them either asking for waivers, not vaccinating, or pulling their kids out of school. And I'm seeing more and more kids homeschooled. And it's now at the point where when I ask, a parent, are you going to need a note for school? They say, my child's homeschooled. I go, is your child vaccinated? They go, we don't vaccinate. Now, I think homeschooling does provide a lot of good education, but if parents are feeling the only way that they can protect their kid from multiple vaccine side effects is, pulling their kids out of school, we need to come up with something that makes people more, comfortable. And one issue we need to do is have more transparency. Parents, I vaccinated my kids, but boy, did I pray after every single injection. Because at the 2-month mark, my son was just lying on the blanket and just kind of listless, and no fever, nothing, just wasn't acting himself. And I was like, oh God, is this a reaction to the shot? I mean, the happy baby, cooing, whatever, and now he's just lying there. And I'm like, is he lethargic? But his eyes were open, and thank God he came out of that, and he was. And I'm not saying that was from the vaccine, but even I, as a parent. And I've spoken to pediatricians, I've spoken to doctors. They go, yeah, with my kid, I held my breath when they were getting their shots. And it's because your job as a parent is you are hoping you're making the right decision. For me, I did not want to not protect my kid. I did not want my kid getting polio. I did not want my kid getting diseases, especially since I was around vulnerable. I was exposing them to disease because I work as a doctor. So I felt better that they were vaccinated. But the rates are going down. And when you read these articles, they're all blaming Trump. They're blaming, the anti-vax RFK Jr. No, the rates have been going down for a while. And so what do we do? Now, all of these are important. And I know Trump made a comment about hepatitis B. I actually delayed the hepatitis B vaccine on my child because he had such a 5 days of labor and all that. I was like, let's hold off and not give him his first dose at birth. But then he was in daycare and another kid bit his arm and broke skin. And I'm like, you're getting your hepatitis B shots now. Because, again, he could get hepatitis B from somebody in daycare. It's not just through sex. So if somebody got hepatitis B from their mom and now they bite your kid, they could give it to them. So my kids got all their vaccines, and I'm happy they did. Although they did get, I believe they got chickenpox before they got their varicella because it was going around. And again, when you're a doctor, you're exposed to everything. Or they got it after their first shot. I have to look back at that. So we need to listen to parents, and we need to have transparency about the benefits and the risks. But yeah, the numbers are going down, and I hate to see parents pull their kids out of school because they're nervous about vaccinating. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.